Good afternoon. My name is Crystal Ellis, and today we will be talking about the customs clearance process. I would like to provide you with a brief overlook into the concept of customs, the importance of the process itself, and of course, the risk associated with customs. We will then review the usage of duties, non-tariff barriers, and foreign trade zones. So, what exactly is customs? Why is it important to me as a consumer? So customs is the name given to the authority responsible for collecting tariffs and for the flow of goods in and out of a country. It's a pivotal step in the supply chain. This is the step that allows the products to be brought in and exported internationally. Without proper verification, exports and imports into the United States could possibly upset the balance between trade internally. Proper documentation allows for transparency within the international market. This documentation is often associated with duty that's attached to the goods. The monetary gain then can be used to promote industry growth. Customs also allows for countries to have a level of protection on the global marketplace. As I stated prior, global market is an attractive option for many industries. It reduces manufacturing costs, access to otherwise unattainable materials, and enables the firm to open its doors to potential customers and new markets. However, there is a risk associated with this trade. Customs clearance circumvents many of these risks and provides an extra layer of protection to the industry, the product, and the country. So let's talk about the risks that are associated with customs. The verification process of customs clearance is not without its pitfalls. Due to the complexity of the process, supply chain managers often face many hurdles and large amount of information to disseminate. Many times, companies elect to work with custom brokers. By utilizing a broker, companies have the benefit of an educated resource with tools to increase efficiency. This broker then streamlines the process. However, this is not without an associated cost. Another inherent risk associated with the customs process is the manual verification process for many products. So audits are often completed by manual verification. This means they're often audited by humans. This opens up the possibility for human input error. Misuse of software systems could fall into the human error category as well. Untrained or new hires can make mistakes. It can also fall into the criminal element that can occur in the import-export industry. So there's a number of risks associated with the counterfeit business that customs oftentimes protects the intellectual rights of a company. Let's talk about duty. So duties is the role of the customs process that when a product is imported into a country, the importer or customer must pay taxes and fees associated with the goods of that product being brought into the country. These taxes and fees are often called duties. You may also see them listed as tariffs, as sometimes the terms are used interchangeably. The amount of duty, though, to be paid is often classified by three categories. The first is the harmonized system, otherwise known as HS in the industry. This system is a standardized numerical code that classifies what the product is. This code is based upon where the product last had its change. So if it's a manufactured product, if it's edited in any component, so say, for example, you have a laptop, there's a specific piece of hardware that gets installed into that laptop in, let's say, for example, India, then that code would change with every chain that's edited to that product itself. Second, the value of the product is calculated. So there are four methods that can be used to calculate this if the information is not gathered up front. The first is the approach of the comparative approach. And this determines the value of the good based upon an identical or similar good imported into the country in approximately the same quantity as what's being imported then. The same, it depends on the product itself if they're able to do that. The next is the deductive method. So customs is then determined at the price of an identical or similar product that's sold within 90 days. So this method is used when the product isn't provided, but there may have been an alternative product that's been used in the country. So oftentimes they'll use that price of the duty to apply to this one as well. And that is based upon the importing country and then like a determining value with markup based upon that country. So there's a little bit more flexibility in that method specifically. There's the computed and reconstructed value. So this determines the value of the good by deducing the manufacturing costs and then adding in a measurable profit onto that product itself. And then the last classification is the method of last resort. So this is the absolute last resort that custom officials want to utilize just because it's not always the best. So it's only used by well-trained and well-informed customs agents, and it's used to determine the value of the goods imported. There's no specific guidelines that are given other than the evaluation cannot be arbitrary, which is very vague. It's unlikely to be anything else if you really consider it, because you're basing it off the value of what one person thinks it is. And then lastly, there is the country of import. So it depends on where the country is bringing in the product and what that country who exported it is, and if they have any type of underlying agreement. For example, products that are being imported into China may have a higher tariff imposed just with the current structure of our trading agreements with China, whereas with Canada or Mexico, we do have free trade agreements that are set aside with those two countries. Therefore, there would not be any additional duty tax on that element itself. Next, I would like to talk about the non-tariff barriers. So non-tariff barriers are exactly as the name would kind of allude to. They have to be a consideration in the customs process just because they're a barrier enacted to international trade. So these are typically implemented to protect the nation itself. The obstacles that are set up to protect typically national industry, it can be something as simple as buy American-made products, or effectively limiting the number of competing products entering the market, and therefore it protects the country's interest. This can also stem to various factors, including relations within the government systems, not wanting to do specific businesses with corporations who utilize slave labor. There are a lot of barriers that can be enacted. And again, this is the best way to restrict trade, not associated with the duties. This is its own regulation. And again, this is typically enacted in order to protect the people and the countries themselves bringing in the international products. Next is our foreign trade zones. So foreign trade zones, otherwise called FTZ zones, have been created to foster commercial merchandise. So these areas are used for both imports and exports. Companies that utilize FTZs can avoid specific fees and duties as materials are treated as if they've not entered the country. So if you think about it, it's like a hub off the main subset of the country that takes and exports products into and out of a country to kind of keep the entities separate. This is particularly useful for companies that source many components to manufacture. So again, back to our analogy previously used, and if you have components that are being sourced from other countries, you may choose to utilize an FTZ in order to not have to pay duties on each one of those components and only pay it the one time when you ship your final product out. This allows the firm to net a savings by controlling the amount of duties and fees that are paid outside of the manufacturing process. They also are incredibly helpful to companies as they are utilized often as warehousing facilities, and products can be stored there within a secure location. They also benefit the countries hosting them. So as far as products being brought in and out of a country, FTZ zones provide a level of protection to the country by protecting infrastructure and national flora and fauna, because a lot of products can go through like a quarantining period in the FTZ zone, which is really great considering international pests may hide in objects. So it's really great to have that option as well. And it also helps deter counterfeiting or property theft in that regard, as they're very highly secure. And it also can entice corporations to diversify production to other countries, as they see an FTZ zone being centrally located as a gain for their business to be able to move products in and about and around a country without having to pay additional duties on those products. And therefore, it helps in creating a relationship with other countries, as strange as that may sound, because if you have a country that it prides itself off one type of product, and then you have a company that's really involved in that country, you can help ease those relationships a little bit better. And on the next slide, I would like to show you all of the FTZ zones in the United States. So as you can see, they're dispersed. So it allows for the product to move, like I said, in and out of the country quite easily, and provides a benefit to any country that has them. And this is not just a United States specific item. FTZ zones are found universally throughout the globe. So I would like to speak on my final thoughts. As we all know, operating in an international market, in a global market, it opens up a large possibility of risk. You have variability in the market, variability with currents, you have product delays, you could possibly have internal theft or damages. So the customs clearance process adds an additional level of protection. Therefore, it is pivotal to the success of a supply chain to utilize and be knowledgeable of custom clearance processes. Again, this is a brief dive into the process overall. It is severely complex with all the structures. So being knowledgeable or allocating resources to find people who can assist is definitely a must for supply chain managers. Those within the industry must have and retain knowledge of the process as they continue through their logistics and supply chain field, as this information is pertinent to many industries and utilized worldwide. This concludes my presentation today. Thank you so much for being here and for viewing this presentation. I hope you have been able to learn some valuable information about the customs process, and look forward to your thoughts. Bye-bye.